All right, this should be a fun little list where I'm sure I'm going to get shit in the comments because this is like a video primed for people's reactions and negative ones at that, because these are movies that no one seemed to like but me and Kaylee. Kaylee likes some of these. Oh, no. You know who didn't like these movies? My dog. He is showing his hatred right now in the background, barking it up. You didn't like these movies, Grogs? All right, well, we'll see. All right, first up, we have a movie called Lovely, Dark, and Deep. Kaylee and I both quite enjoyed this movie. This deals with a woman who works for the forest rangers, and she is stationed at this place. Now, while the story becomes contrived and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the end, I actually really enjoyed the atmosphere of this one. I actually really enjoyed the ride, and I didn't really care that the payoff wasn't as strong as some people wanted it to be. This one didn't bother me in that department, even though I totally understand why people were pissed off at like decision making and things didn't make any sense. And why would they do this? Yes, this movie poses a whole mess of questions that I feel don't get a satisfying answer. And for that reason, I completely understand why people were very put off by this one. But I honestly just didn't have the issues that other people had with this one. Um, and yeah, it didn't piss me off like it seemed to other people. So this is one that we gave a positive review to, and mostly got negative comments. And every time I've seen pretty much anyone talk about this film, they're very down on the movie. But we both quite enjoyed it, and if you watch our review on it, you'll see that we had a good time with it and we recommended it. So I guess we're morons. Yeah, but whatever. Another one that I quite enjoyed. It has its issues for sure, but is a movie called Baghead. This was like a creature who's kept behind a wall in this girl's father's bar, has it downstairs, and you can bring them out and talk to them, and they can take on the appearance of somebody, but it comes at a price. I thought that this one had a lot of great atmosphere as well. I thought this was a creepy film that had some cool, memorable moments. Maybe not everything worked, but man, people were so down on this movie and really, really knocked it. And we gave it a positive review and got a lot of shit for it, but whatever. We had a good time with it, and these are movies that I can't really in good conscience recommend, because this is kind of the point of this video is these are movies we did recommend and people were not happy with us for recommending them because they watched them after we had recommended them. So this is probably people's biggest disappointments with us. It's probably what this video should be called. The movies we let you down with, but we enjoyed from this year. Not Kaylee on all of these because she did miss some of these, but or there's actually one in here that she didn't care for that I did. So that's why it's just me. Next up, this is one that a lot of people went into wanting to hate, and when they did see it, a lot of them didn't even see it. They just hated on it without even seeing the damn thing. But yes, this is a very generic horror film. This is kind of like a classic spook fest movie, PG-13 gateway horror movie that I watched twice. Actually, this is another one I watched twice. I watched it by myself in theaters and I liked it. I enjoyed it, and then I showed it to Kaylee and the kids. I showed this to my children. This is Tarot, a movie that got a whole mess of shit when it came out. Everyone hating on it being this generic Blumhouse-esque film. I know it wasn't Blumhouse, but a lot of people were shitting on this, kind of like a Bye Bye Man or a Truth or Dare, or those types of PG-13 entry-level horror films that come out that have generic stuff in them. But I find them to be totally entertaining. I like the characters are totally serviceable to get you from one scene to the next. I liked the execution of the monster. I thought that there was a lot of variety. The monster takes on the form of whatever tarot card that person got as like their monster that was going to be hunting them. It kind of played out almost like a Final Destination where, you know, your death is imminent. It's already kind of been predetermined and some things coming after you that you can't stop. Yes, it is as paint by numbers generic as possible, but still a very enjoyable film to me. One that a lot of people shit on. But that being said, in the comments, I did get a lot of defense from people who are like, yes, people unjustly hate on movies like this. These are the movies that people always love to shit on without giving a fair shake to, or they just have it in their mind that these types of like, you know, jump fest movies that have kind of very repetitive uh, plot lines, derivative of countless other films in the past. I don't know. These are the types of films they can definitely be unsuccessful. But if you like movies like Darkness Falls, um, or the aforementioned movies, I don't know. If you don't mind those types of films, I think this is one that people definitely unjustly hated on because it's PG-13 and because it's you know, a little more derivative. But I had a good time. Anyways, now this one is one that not almost anyone saw, but I really enjoyed. I was gonna put this on a like overlooked films, but I actually lost a subscriber over this recommendation. They got really mad at me and we're like, you always recommend these shit movies, you know, like you'll recommend good stuff but you are not trustworthy because you'll recommend the most garbage low budget shit. And this movie is called For Sale. I really enjoyed this. Like, I loved this movie. I had a great time with this, but man, when I have seen people talk about this, like if they saw it, JT, a buddy of mine who has another YouTube channel, watched this and also really enjoyed it on my recommendation. He was like, yeah, I don't know what the hell people are talking about. This is a super fun film. It's a longer movie. I think it's almost 2 hours long. But it's about a like scummy salesman who is down on his luck. He loses his job. And so he has to take a job at another um, real estate office, and the real estate office, like, they don't like him and they're just like trying to get rid of him, and he's a very aggressive salesman, and he's like, I'll do anything, and they're like, hey man, if you can sell this property, I'll make you a partner. And he's like, hell yeah, I can sell anything. And the house is like haunted as fuck. It's like Amityville times 10, and it's a horror comedy, and he goes into this house and he's trying to sell it to these like, you know, unsuspecting victims. And he's like this total shit salesman, like, you know, doesn't care about anybody, doesn't care about anything but the sale. And so he's like trying to hide the fact that this house is haunted as he's trying to sell it to all these potential buyers. And I thought a lot of that was super funny. I thought it was a very clever um movie, and I even was praising it, and the director contacted me and said, you know, hey, because I had said in the review, I was like, hey, you know, I would love to talk to the actor or the director. And they actually wrote me, the director and the actor, and were like, hey, we'd love to do an interview with you. And I never wrote them back. I'm such an asshole. I just Kaylee got a work from home job, and she like totally took over the computer. If you haven't noticed, we haven't done a live video since she started that job because like she took away our capability of doing that easily. We really have to like set back up the computer and put everything back. It's a big pain in the ass, and we just haven't, you know, done it. And so we got contacted by these guys, and I didn't even write them back. I feel so bad because I was like, hey, I'll do an interview with you. And then they wrote me and were like, well, let's do an interview. And I never wrote them back, which is such a dick move. But anyway, I really enjoyed this one. I had a great time with it, but man, I got blasted so hard by a longtime subscriber that was like, I'm done. I'm done with the channel. I'm over you. I'm leaving. You waste my and my wife's time giving us shit recommendations. It really pissed me off in the moment because I was like, you've liked so many recommendations I've given you, and they're not all going to be hits. We're all going to have disagreements on occasion, right? Nobody lines up with you 100%. You're never going to find a YouTuber or a person in your life who lines up on you 100% of the time. It's just never going to happen. So I find it very funny that this guy came so aggressively at me in the comments. But I had to make this on the list. This is the film that prompted this list in general. This and one other movie that I also really loved that everyone hated, and we'll get there. I'll probably save it for last. Okay, next up is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Both Kaylee and I loved this. This we actually watched twice. This is another one we enjoyed that we enjoyed so much we watched it 2 times. Probably watched maybe 5 films this year twice. From 2024. This is one we watched in theaters, and then we had shown my kids all of the M. Night Shyamalan movies that they could watch, except for the R-rated ones, because their mom won't let them watch R-rated movies, which is lame, but whatever. I adhere to her policies. But I showed them what I could, and so they were really excited. And when this got released at home on VOD, we showed it to them as well. We watched it again. I really liked the music from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I thought that she was a very believable pop star, Lady Raven. I know people shit on this movie for being so ridiculous, and you have to suspend so much disbelief. You just can't do it. But I never had that problem. The like literal amounts of suspension of disbelief that has been asked of me in so many movies throughout the years. Do you know how many movies expect you to suspend so much disbelief? And trust me, there's films that I've watched where I have been asked to suspend too much, and I totally understand it. I'm not shitting on anybody here, but I didn't have that problem with this film at all. I just rolled with it. Whatever they threw at me, whatever like scheme he came up with, whatever way he went, people got way too hypercritical on this one, in my opinion. I felt like people took this one way too seriously. They just were like breaking down every single aspect. They're like, there's no way that the cops would ever do this, blah, blah, blah. Hilariously, this is based on a true story. This is literally this is based on a story of like they tried to trap a killer in an open area with like at a festival or something. I looked into the story. I kind of forgot it now, but it is kind of funny to me that people are really down on the concept, saying it's so unbelievable when the premise of the film is based on a true story. I don't know. I find that kind of funny. But regardless, I never had an issue with it. I think this is actually one of my more preferred performances from a male lead this year. This is like one of my favorite antagonist performances. Josh Hartnett is so fucking great in this. He is so entertaining to watch. I really enjoyed watching him kind of go around the state, come up with new ways to get away from his daughter while still trying to be dad of the year, and going around and finding out these little tidbits of information and using his charm. And I don't know. It's such a fun film. I don't understand the hatred for this one. I really don't get it. People were way too serious with this movie, and they just didn't have a good time with it. And that's fine. I'm not shitting on anybody here. I just really enjoyed it, as did Kaylee. In fact, Kaylee liked it even more than I did. She was really big on this one. All right, next up, this is one Kaylee was not big on. In fact, this is maybe the biggest difference we had on a film this year, because I loved it. I think I gave it like a 4.5, and I think she gave it like a 3 or something, which was Azrael. This is a Samara Weaving movie. There's almost no dialogue spoken in the entire film. It's a post-apocalyptic kind of thing, and the things that, and Kaylee wasn't alone. There was a lot of people who didn't like this movie, but then there was a lot of people who did like this movie. This is a very split film. So this is more of like a split film, more so than like almost everyone I saw disliked the movie, but a lot of people disliked this movie. And a lot of people had the same opinions, either Kaylee or I had. They either were like Kaylee, who were like, I needed to know more about this world. This world did not give me enough. I needed more world building. I needed more lore. It just didn't deliver in that department, and I kept sitting there wondering like what the hell was going on, and it took me out of it. I wasn't that way with this film at all. This movie was lean and mean and was straight to the point, and I didn't care. Like there was enough world building there for me to piece together enough for me to enjoy the ride. I just loved her tenacity. I love Samara Weaving in general, but I really loved that her character was resilient and tenacious and fought endlessly. And I loved the like almost Mad Max um, road warrior approach to this film. I thought that that was a great time. It kind of reminded me of a Mad Max film, like Fury Road or Road Warrior, where Mad Max really has almost no dialogue, and it's mostly just like him in a post-apocalyptic world fighting endlessly against these kind of uh, these villains who have whatever driving them. I'm fine with those types of films. And she's Australian. No, she's New Zealand. She's from New Zealand. I think she's. I can't remember. Is she Australian? I think she's Australian. Yeah. And the Mad Max films are also. Anyway. And lastly, this is the movie that probably prompted this list the most. Probably the most misunderstood film of the year. This was from the other Eggers. We obviously had Nosferatu from Robert Eggers, but his brothers, Max and I can't remember the other one's name. They made a movie called The Front Room, which is currently on HBO. This is like a comedy, a dark comedy, and man, people hated this movie. People fucking hated this movie. This made a lot of people's bottom of the year lists. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. It is super disgusting. It is a very gross movie, but honestly, yet again, much like Josh Hartnett, one of my favorite antagonists of the year. This was up there with Longlegs and, as I said, Josh Hartnett's character in Trap. I loved this old woman's performance. She got me laughing so hard in the theater. I thought she was so over the top, so absurd. It almost kind of reminded me of like a Throw Mama from the Train, where she's just so abhorrent. She's so unlikable. She's so over the top. She's so absurd. She's so disgusting. There's so much piss and shit humor in this, like an absurd amount. And I get it. That is not everyone's brand of humor. People probably thought this was just absolutely moronic. Such a stupid film, super gross for gross sake. And I completely understand the critiques, but man, I had a great time. I saw this in theaters by myself. There was only like two other people in the theater, and all of us were laughing. The whole theater, just me and the whole theater. It's two other people. But regardless, I think that's my memory of it anyway. I actually maybe need to go back and rewatch my review. Maybe the other people were not liking it like me. I can't remember. I'm mixing this up with maybe something else. But whatever. I had a great time with this one. I know everyone was super down on it, but I loved it. So if for some reason you didn't check it out and you have a very bizarre sense of humor and you want to see a movie where like the in-law from hell comes to live with this family and she's like old school, super racist, super religious, super manipulative, and is constantly like pissing and shitting herself on purpose, and very funny in my opinion. Personally, I know almost no one else liked this movie, but man, I had a great time with it. So the A24 film that no one liked but me. Anyway, there you go. There's a list of films that I really enjoyed, that I had a great time with, that you guys seem to really not like. So I thought that would be a fun film list to go through. I've never done a list like that before. And yeah, I think it's a unique one, and one that I had a good time talking about. So which ones of these did you actually like I did? And which ones of these, like everyone else, did you hate? And what are films from this year that a lot of people were down on that you enjoyed? Did anyone out there enjoy The Strangers Chapter 1, or, these films that really got shit on by everybody that you were like, I thought that was actually pretty good? There's always going to be fans for every film. Every film you've ever seen that you hate has a fan or two. Every film. Even that film. Even that film that you're thinking of right now, you're like, no way, nobody could have possibly liked this film. I guarantee you somebody liked that movie. So anyway, what is your movie from the year that everyone seemed to hate that you enjoyed? Let me know. I'll see you in the comments. Adios.